Hey everyone, how is it going today? Thanks for being here. As always, appreciate it. A nice hot New York City day. Today I've got my really excellent, really close friend Angus Clark on. And Angus is going to come on and talk about some Pentatonic stuff. He's got a new course out on TrueFire and we want to share some of that with you. If you guys aren't familiar with Angus Clark, he plays with a ton of stuff. The Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Cher, we'll talk about that, Lynn Turner, among many other things. But I wanted to, since we're doing a live Skype thing, I'm just going to play a clip of Angus playing Burst. So let's check this out, guys. All right, well, here he is. Here's the man himself. I'm pointing that way. Angus Clark. Welcome, everybody, Angus Clark. How's it going, man?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing good. So nice playing. So for you guys who don't know, like I said, Angus and I are the closest of friends. A lot of people don't know that. We used to live together when I first moved to New York City. And what, 5-10 years ago was that? Something like that?
just eight to 12 years ago.
8 to 12 years ago. I'll go with that. Yeah. So Angus got a new course out on TrueFire. So actually, let's talk about some more background. We'll talk about Pentatonic skills and I'll leave the floor to you for a minute as we could go back and forth. We're both huge. I think we first bonded on probably Sabbath, was it? Or Schenker, or
I mean, Jeff and I met teaching at the now defunct National Guitar Summer Workshop. Mm-hmm. I wound up teaching there through my teacher at NYU. I was a I had finished my undergraduate at USC. I got to NYU. My guitar teacher was like, "Oh, they could use some more rock teachers up here," and there was Jeff, and we were the two long-haired guys. Pretty much. Yeah, no, pretty much. There's only one long-haired guy left now, but okay. but anyway, and then I think there was like a faculty concert, and you had to find people to jam with, and you had been there before, and you were very, you were very gracious, and we kind of met having to play together on something. And I was very impressed with your playing, and hopefully the feeling was mutual.
Sure.
And then I'm sure we just started talking about, I mean, I know, you've always had like I love Randy Rhoads, you like Jakey Lee, we both love Schenker. We both we just like that rock, what we're now referring to as proto shredders.
Proto shredders, yeah, I like that term. What do we mean by proto shredder? You want to explain what you mean by proto shredder?
It's kind of like, you know, Jeff and I are just about exactly the same age, and so we were discovering rock music at the time the mold of the guitar player was being completely reshaped after Eddie Van Halen. Like Eddie Van Halen was already established when we he was really like he was already established by the time you and I discovered guitar. And then we both had like this kind of 70s, early 80s rock thing. And there were certain guys that were playing faster than other people. Like Michael Schenker was a virtuoso guitar player, right? Mm-hmm. And then you had all the guys that inspired Yngwie. You had Blackmore and Uli Roth, right?
Yep.
So pretty much anybody that was in the Scorpions and this kind of, you know, early Euro metal, Deep Purple inspired thing you had, like, right? And then Yngwie came out and all of our heads collectively exploded at the same time.
That's true.
Pretty much. And for me, Randy was, you know, and I was brought up in a household that was filled with classical music. My parents listened to classical music. And so, like, you know, hearing somebody that was like doing some interpretation of classical music and the rock thing was like very much, see, Mom and Dad, these rock guys know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And, but this was before, I think the full shred thing came up just a little later. Right?
Yep.
Because it was like, it's after Yngwie that you had Shrapnel Records just as this breeding ground for cats that could just play 30-second notes at a hefty tempo for, you know, hours and hours. And they were making records that weren't actual mainstream pop records.
Right.
UFO,
yeah.
Strangers in the Night, huge record, gold records,
yeah.
You know? And I think that's an important difference. Like most of the proto shred players were in bands that were actually, you know, making records where the singer was a part of the band, the lyrics and the production and everything was meant to go on the radio, and it was popular music.
Yeah,
you know?
No, it's I never really, you know, I think we talked about this, but that's totally true. That those bands, a lot of them, I can still listen to it because the tunes are good. You know, that's part of just being a good band, as opposed to a lot of how the things went with all the shredder bands and just unlistenable music, you know. But, all right, so, sorry.
Oh, no, we still love some of that stuff.
Yeah, of course. I mean, some of it, you know, some of the stuff you listen back, you're like, nah, and I'm not going to mention any names, you're like, I can't listen to that anymore. But that first Yngwie record, I can still listen to, man. I think it's just still amazing. Because what he had that a lot of the guys didn't have post him was just they had a great tone, he's got a great feel and a vibrato, and he's got all the solid core elements that we need to, you know, to be a great rock guitar player. So.
Yeah. And I mean, it's still like, so, you know, Jeff Scott Soto is in my touring band with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and like I saw him with Yngwie at the Beacon Theater in like 85 or whatever, you know, on the first tour with Talus opening with Billy Sheehan.
Yeah. I saw them in a small bar in not upstate New York, but in Spring Valley, New York, and I was still in high school, so it must have been like 99. No, just kidding. Keep my saying. But no, I mean, and I remember meeting him, and I think he's our age, right? So I was kind of like, hey, we're the same age.
I know. It's amazing. Yeah. He was so young when he got with that. And that's where I like to say, so after doing the Lynn Turner gig, and I say this facetiously, like with most things, it's like, man, I subbed for Blackmore and I subbed for Yngwie.
It's true. It's
so
true. Who gets to say that? All right, so I wanted you to, we'll come back and we'll do all the talking, but I always love to have a little bit of teaching on the top. And you got the new course out on pentatonic scales and kind of in a more rock context. So do you want to maybe kind of talk to people about what the course is about and maybe give an example? Like nothing, no stressful, but just your general idea of the course and how you get so good.
Well, you have to practice everything slowly with a metronome.
Yeah,
That's
true.
how you get good. The point of the course, so we part of the thing at True Fire is you hunt around for like the engaging title, and in this case, I was like, I want to call it Alchemy, man, because that's surefire. It's gonna be a surefire hit if I throw the word alchemy on top of it.
Money in the bank.
Yeah. So, but the concept there is that, and I went for the literal meaning of alchemy, which is, that you can create gold out of any substance. And the idea here is that you don't need to know anything more than the pentatonic scale, the minor pentatonic or blues pentatonic scale, in order to make a gold record. And it's been done time and time again. And I was just trying to show my approach to it, which, Jeff has those amazing courses on pentatonics. A lot of the material is very similar, but my concepts are a little bit different. So in the course, I just take everybody through just my basic I'm really just working the basic shape. This is on. But then I just do the simplest articulations, and that you have to focus on those in order to actually make it sound good. So your hammer-ons, at the correct velocity that you get the right volume out of the note. Are your pull-offs at the, done with the correct amount of force so that you're not underemphasizing the note that you get from the pull-off? Are your bends in tune? Vibrato, it's all that stuff about your touch. So that's kind of the first lesson. And then from there, I'm into breaking down the pentatonic into single octave shapes. So I don't really talk about the 5 fingerings as much as I just talk about single octave shapes, being like, this is 1. And then I just demonstrate how you take that one shape and you can play it all over. As long as you can find the F sharp, you can play it. You're just finding that single octave shape all over the neck, which if you haven't approached the neck in that way, that would be new information. And then I also do what I know, Jeff, you call this the helix, which I wasn't aware of that term for this when you combine the lower extension.
Right. I just call it that because it looked like, as a way to practice, you're going up one fingering, changing positions, going down the next. And it just reminded me of helix. And then a lot of people ask, I don't understand what you mean by that. And I just send them a picture of the helix. And I think...
Right,
Yeah, so you're going up and snaking back down.
That's super clever. My idea there is that, again, you have a single octave shape that repeats. You have this, and then there it is again. And so this is now a sliding shape as opposed to a position shape for a single octave shape. And then in the playing that I just did, you would have seen me kind of work my way through taking the sliding shape and really, really expanding on it with something like this. So like at that point, I've gotten all the way from here. How many octaves is that? It's like 3 octaves.
Damn.
Right? Dang. What the?
I got a question for you as I'm watching. So when you're changing positions, are you leading with a particular finger? How are you thinking about changing those positions when you maybe play that ascending and descending?
Yeah, it's 2 or 3. Your second or third finger for the most part.
Can you show it?
Yeah, so in that one, what I just did, and I'm in F sharp minor, but this starts on the A. Actually, hold on, let me just change the setting here so I can talk. We're in F sharp minor, but it's the same as A major pentatonic. Mm-hmm. So the concept is, if this is A major or F sharp minor, that's 1 octave. Okay, and then you're into the next octave. It's the same fingering, but here, let's see. You just have to set yourself up I'll finger this 1, 2, so that when I get to the second string, I can come in with my first finger. So here it's a 3. Same way here. And so that's kind of what's been building kind of in my playing over the last few years, is kind of that like super slidey. So there's, it's like there's standard, and then there's kind of more extended. And I'm just picking where I slide based on how I want to get there. So in that case, and I know that, Jeff, in your courses, you covered like the 2-string shape approach, which a lot of us use moving horizontally on the, just a string set. But this is really like that concept, just kind of all over the neck and all over the string sets at the same time. You're just sliding from one to the next at will.
For sure. Now, can you show me how you're descending? Because that always, I find people have a problem with that. Like sometimes I know if I'm ascending, I might lead with the 3rd finger, as you were doing primarily, and then work out what you need to for the tuning difference on the strings, right? And in the descending, I think I'm kind of leading oftentimes with the 1st finger, right? So ascending, I'm doing the shift with the 3rd or the 4th finger, depending, and then descending, I'm using the 1st finger to lead, going back down. How about you? Right.
Okay, so let's shift over to A minor, and for me, you got to start like, what would Iommi do? Pretty much.
WWID.
So that just gets to be a question of articulation, right? Yep. Like I always have that. People say the tone is in your hands, and I think the tone is in your ears. Like you'll make your hands do what they need to do to get to the sound that you want to hear. Like that's the driving force. You listen to enough Sabbath, you figure out how to make it sound like Sabbath. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you'd be well served by that.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
So what would Iommi do in the A? I would slide down my 3rd finger in the helix, right?
Yeah. I would too on that. Yeah. No, I think you're right. No, that's a great point. So you said the sound is in your ears. So yeah. 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 Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I got to think about it then. But yeah, but definitely. What do I know? But right. So depending on what the lick is, it almost feels like if it's more bluesy, I'll slide with the 3rd finger, like Iommi or whoever I'm thinking about. As opposed to, but I think if I'm trying to rip, which is all about ripping, it would be the 1st finger probably.
I think the day we met at the rehearsal on that thing, on that concert, I did one of these like, and I remember you looking and like, I was like, oh, I impressed the new guy. I'm the new guy.
I'm the new guy. The new guy
mildly, I did something mildly impressive.
We met in the car, right? Was that Hamburger, David Hamburger that I met in the car? I can't remember, so long ago. Anyway, remind us to tell a Zakk Wylde story, which will be definitely worth telling.
Right. We'll tell some sanitized version of a Zakk Wylde story. So anyway, if we just talk about the helix, then the second opportunity is up here. Good one. But what I find myself doing in the descending thing, more often than not, is I play this single octave shape here. For some reason, I wind up doing that. And then I get back into the position. Like that happens to me so often. So there I'm use my first finger to get back in.
Yep.
I don't know. That's just like...
Well, we're just talking about position change. I'm just thinking what I did earlier, too, because I'm going to make this about me right now. So, you're off screen. I go like, and sometimes I'll go, if I want to get back into fingering number one, I'll slide up with the first finger. So like, like that kind of move. So,
and I feel like we talked about this on the last live stream, but it's like one of the first solos I ever learned was Tomorrow's Dream. Let's see. I mean, that's it. That's been in my playing since the first solo I ever learned, and then Snowblind. And so that's just like how I think of. I mean, that's just been there since my second year playing the guitar. So that's where that slidey thing got to be for me really expressive. And I did somehow in the midst of playing that solo that we opened the show with, I managed to do the bend from the tonic to the 9, which is so Iommi.
Yeah.
It's in Paranoid, right?
It is. Yeah, true. So it's really cool how these things are like the stuff that we listen to so early on in those first solos we kind of attach onto, just carry through with us for the rest of it, like the rest of our lives, So, but one thing that you're doing there that I noticed when you're playing the Alchemy stuff, and we've talked about this about Sabbath, is since they come from a blues background, it's always so swingy and groovy. Like they always, whether it's Snowblind or Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, or I'm thinking War Pigs. It's always groovy, It's always kind of swinging really heavily. And when we talked about the proto shredder guys, a lot of the ones that we really love are coming more from a blues background, as opposed to say there's that neoclassical angle, but there's still always a blues rock background to all the guys that we really truly love, I think. And that comes out in your playing and in their playing too, like that. I can't get away from the blues, and nor do I want to. I think it's a big part of it. Yeah,
so that brings us to kind of like the progression, which Jeff and I were talking earlier. This is kind of where Jeff's rock courses have been going, and it's kind of what I was always trying to get into in this radio rock courses that I did with True Fire, which is how do you play kind of bluesish? How do you imply that stuff in the pop rock stuff, which by and large gets back to a major key,
right?
And for me, I always like it. Just Journey's that album, the album with Don't Stop Believing on it, like that. That's like a sweet spot for me. That's like, 80, 81, 8th grade. I was getting into guitar. I mean, it's one of the first things I tried to learn how to play.
Sure.
But Neil Schon, like all over the Journey catalog, is just figuring out that way. The solo on Lights, the solo on, Tim Pierce just did his thing on Lights. He's just always figuring out how to get that major pentatonic, and then, suddenly it's like, he plays just something badass in there.
Right.
And it's so impactful because he saves it up. And then I realized that one of the blueprints for that was some of Clapton's playing in Cream when they were writing pop tunes.
Right.
Like Badge and other things that relied on a much more, not the traditional blues tone set. Blackmore in
the Brain.
Yeah. Clapton was sorting out how to do that, and these guys have moves, and Angus Young has these major to minor, back to major moves. It's not even a lick; it's like a move. You can see it on a couple of solos, and then you're like, that's, and as soon as you get those under your fingers, you kind of have opened up that thing. I think there's something in Badge where he's like, like that one, it's like, because he's addressing the major pentatonic out of this. So if this is D minor, right?
Yeah, D5.
So D minor would be here, but D major is just.
Yeah.
He does that all the time in Crossroads, and he does it in Badge, and so he's like, and that right there, that's how he gets the minor, and it's so ballsy, right? Yeah. It's like, it's so good. And sorry, go ahead.
No, please. I was gonna say it's one of my favorite solos by him. It's such a. Now, for me, it was a big eye opener too. It's like, wait a minute. It's not that mixture of major, minor, and blues. It was a mixture of major and minor, playing off of that flat third, implying a dominant seventh sound. Really, you know what I mean? But I was at a very early point. I was just thinking minor pentatonic, and my bluesy background. It was so weird. Like I would listen to. Certainly Sabbath was always a little darker, and Ozzy and Priest and Maiden. It was always a kind of a darker sound, which I always leaned towards, and then Uli Roth and all that stuff. But I loved Zeppelin so much, I didn't really realize, and I loved Clapton and Cream and all, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, I missed this whole major dominant seventh sound, for a really long time, until like after, I don't know, maybe even after high school, and I started listening to Clapton more carefully. I'm like, how did I miss all of this? Like... Everything was just a harmonic minor or a straight minor. But that solo was great. And plus the bends on and all his articulation that he does is still pretty amazing stuff,
Yeah. And Crossroads has a lot, I think one of the basic thing in Crossroads, I don't want this to get demonetized. I don't know at what point you get it.
Whatever, just change it. Yeah, who cares?
But it's like it's just the nail in the flat 7 on the 4 chord. That stuff, and then one of the coolest moves he does, I think, is when he's getting into it up here, and he's doing this.
Yep. Right. Yeah, and he's just like very much jumping fingering wise from major to minor. It's pretty funny and outlining the changes in that first position. Yeah, but yeah, that whole sound, yeah. Then, yeah, going back to the minor, yeah, it's
right, and then Angus Young's move is the right. He's the same, pretty much kind of the same.
And you hear B.B. King play that stuff, which is great. And then obviously prior to them, Clapton or Peter Green, who those guys, well, not Clapton, but Angus Young and Billy Gibbons and big Peter Green fans, as myself included. But hearing that kind of change like that was, it's cool. And it just comes back down to what a lot of these guys have that we really love. And any great guitar player, I think, is just the understanding of the nuance of the notes. Like you're talking about that in the inflection on the bends, outlining the changes to add another level of excitement to the playing. So you're not just playing through some stuff, So,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to take a moment to remind everybody that Angus does have a course. A new course that just came out on TrueFire, Rock Pentatonic Alchemy, right? Or Pentatonic Rock Alchemy, I'm sorry. The link's here. It's down in the description, and Phil is being cool enough to put in there. It's 20% off. If you get it through that link, as we talked about before, Angus gets a much bigger percentage. The people at TrueFire are fantastically great people, and they give us the opportunity to make a lot more money if we sell it on our own. So, and they are all behind that, and I implore you, if you're going to check out this course, which I highly recommend that, and any of Angus's courses, you do a really good David Gilmour course too. And then just use the link that Phil has posted in there, or that's in my description if you're not following the live chat, to check out Angus's. Now you also have another course coming out too, don't you?
Yeah, so there's beyond Pentatonics, and in that case, we're doing the thing about how you stay with this basic notion of I have the tonic here, here, and here, but I'm adding tones from a 7-note scale to it. If you call it, modes, major, minor, but whatever. And I just kind of dig into the most obvious ones that get used in rock. So like you'll see, and this would be, where Iommi adds scale tones and Schenker adds scale tones and so on and so forth. And it's like just getting the 9, getting the second degree of the scale into and the natural minor, just getting that in there, but you still you're still.
So the framework is the pentatonic scale.
Yeah, and I think it's that taking those little steps, and it kind of keeps you from sounding overly scalar, and then so if that's the Aeolian notes, then the Dorian notes. And then and then if you want to get the Mixolydian notes, I'm just adding sharps to the scale right now. I went from an F to an F sharp. Added a B. I added an F. I went from an F to an F sharp. Now I'm gonna go major and add take the C to a C sharp. So we had Dorian, and then I get, instead of the C, I get the C sharp. Now you got the mix, so you can play shapes of things all day long. Now you're all set for that, right? Done. Mixolydian mode. Done.
But you're not really thinking modes when you're soloing, right? I mean, I don't think modes. You're thinking those extra color tones that work inside the chord progression, and you know what they are, and then you're just thinking adding onto your pentatonic scales,
Well, what about like Schenker, and like, what is it in where he's just like just minor third, major third, because the
like
band
kind of
are just
E5 stuff, yeah, and Dorian, yeah, for sure, and then tweaking that flat third, tweaking the third and all that, So I'm after people for questions for Angus, but let's just talk about some stuff. I think people are so enthralled that they're not even really asking questions, I'm assuming. So I got Phil, okay. All right,
well, let's talk about that time Zach visited the workshop.
We'll keep that to the end, which is a very funny story. Okay, so let's talk about some stuff. So you play with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. How long have you been playing with them? And then maybe you could talk about, you've probably talked about this a million times. I think we talked about it maybe one of our previous chats. And I will tell a funny story. Like Angus and I we've known each other for so long. So when I first moved to New York, we lived together after knowing each other at the National Guitar Workshop. And he was in a band called Liquid Hips. And you had left that band because you joined a band called Naked Sun. And you guys signed to a record deal. And then so I joined Liquid Hips. And subsequently, we started touring and got a record deal. And then you did the record with Naked Sun, which led to you being discovered in a gig in California by Kitaro, the new age artist. And you might want to talk about that for a minute, because that was pretty cool. I remember that because we were living together at the time. It was a really cool moment to see all this stuff happening for you. So if you want to talk a little bit about that.
So we're taking it back now to 90. This would be from 92 to 94, and Jeff and I are living in Cobble Hill. Mm-hmm. Boerum Hill, Cobble Hill.
Cobble. I think it's called Cobble Hill. Yeah.
Cobble Hill. And right. I had been. I don't know. There's a million places to start, but essentially, I had a guitar teacher who was in this band called Liquid Hips, and
Bill.
And so Bill was like the jazz funk guy, and they were all these devotees of like what would be called alternative funk kind of music, specifically the band Defunct, which they were all pretty much all in. So this was like a side project from guys in this band called Defunct, which is fronted by Joe Bowie, who was the brother of Lester Bowie of the, what's it called? Chicago Music Quartet, something.
Something, yes.
Anyway, there's some legit jazz and avant-garde funk, kind of those late era Miles Davis, atonal kind of bent. Like that's what those guys are into.
And those guys are way into that. Yeah.
Way into this really deep stuff.
Yeah.
But they also loved hip hop and funk. And John was like, I want like Red Hot Chili Peppers, so I need like a rock guy in the band along with my funk guy. And he called the funk guitar the stroke guitar. So like, well, Bill on the stroke, and we'll have Angus, doing the
riffs,
doing the rock, the riffs, right? Yeah. And it was great because they were all older than me. I was like super like pumped to be playing with them, and he did get managed to get a record deal for it, and after years of me being there, being told we were going to get some touring in Europe and stuff like that, I was finally like, look, I have an opportunity to join a band that already has a record deal, and so I'm going to go. So I joined that band, and after 2 years of making that band losing its record deal, Naked Sun had been written up in Kerrang magazine, like 5Ks, single of the year, kind of had a deal on same distributed by BMG Records. And then I joined the band and promptly got dropped. So we made a record all by ourselves, my first DIY record using ADATs. And I've pretty much been a DIY artist the rest of my life as far as a recording artist.
Right.
And but at the end of the day, it was like the only way for us to get another record deal is to go to Los Angeles. So we go to Los Angeles, and this is in the wake. This is in the wake of the huge Northridge earthquake, and we're playing all these bars that are like red flagged, like they're going to be demolished next week.
Wow!
And we must have played 3 different shows with Weezer. Like, because Weezer were newly signed and showcasing, and it was just the sign of things to come. Here's 5 guys with long hair and bell bottoms playing kind of artsy prog metal, and here's 5 guys in sweaters and bowl haircuts who are about to become super famous. You could just tell it was the bad timing. And so we played this one gig at the Whiskey. There were maybe 5 people there, and then literally 2 days later, I went to see a friend of mine's band and met Guitaro's manager, who asked me, did you play at the Whiskey 2 days ago? You reminded me of David Gilmour. And Guitaro was just telling me we want a guitar player who looks and sounds like David Gilmour. I don't know if he said looks, but I think she interpreted it that way. And then that was it. That was my first sideman gig. And, that was, I got back home to New York not having the gig. And Jeff told me, oh, we're going to Europe next month. And I was so depressed. And
sorry.
And then I get this call, like, would you do you want to? We want you to do the guitar thing. We're going to fly you to Boulder to his studio. And next thing I know, I'm in his studio was in a mansion outside of Boulder, Kennedy era mansion that had a Neve board and like a whole separate live space. And I'm there playing through, I think I'm playing through either Guitaro's equipment or John DeFaria's equipment. Shout out to John DeFaria, still an amazing guitar player who, at the time I got the gig, he sent me his charts and like talked me through everything. So, I'd been to music school and everything, but I had no idea what was going on. And it's only thanks to, getting on the phone with John and, sending me these new age charts, which are like one chord for 48 bars.
Yeah,
And
I
then
had those charts. Yeah.
And then on cue, you have to play this, 16th note figure. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to listen to the record.
And then you did that for a long time. You guys could check out Angus. You did one of those PBS specials, which is cool. And then all right, so you did guitar for quite a number of years. Yeah.
On this guitar.
Oh yeah, man! You've had that guitar since I've known you, pretty much. I think you got that when we first met. You didn't have that when you first. You had the black Charvel. No, the black ESP, and you had the black Charvelas too. But you had a black ESP.
Right. You helped me sell that ESP.
Yeah, I remember that, and I remember the store I brought it to. I used to teach at this really crappy guitar store when we first met, and I got them to sell it before the internet. And I was commuting from Brooklyn to like North Jersey to teach, because I remember it fell off the wall and got a big huge chunk taken out of it, and they're like, "Oh, your friend's guitar." And then the guitar repair guy at the store is just the guitar assassin, we should have called him. He put like black nail polish in there and like he's like, "Oh, it looks fine." It's like this big blob. I was like, "That's not fine," Well, you got.
But I still got the money out of that guitar.
Well, yeah, because
thank you very much.
Yeah, you dropped it. So pretty funny. All right, so the guitar thing. I remember seeing you at Radio City Music Hall, not Radio City. No, Carnegie Hall. That's right. You were at Carnegie Hall playing there.
We did both. One year we did Radio City, and the next
I saw
one
both.
we did
That's right. I saw both, and I was envious from the audience. While at that point I was slogging it out in Europe with Liquid Hips in band tours. Sleeping in places, like the club would be like, "Oh, we have a hotel room," and some clubs are like, "Oh, well, the band stays upstairs." You walk in there, and you're like, "No, I'm not sleeping in that bed." The glory of touring in rock bands, man. Oh my God.
That's Europe specifically, man, or the UK, even worse than Europe. There's stories, but yeah, I only want to bring. I've got this is a virtually identical guitar with a maple fingerboard that was a gift from a student of mine, and because I was saying, yeah, I want to play that, but I want to play a maple board, and he found it, and this is from like the same year. This is like 92 to 92. And I'm, super excited to have it. But for the radio rock thing, these are original Fender Floyd Rose classics, and so it's like they were late to the party. While all the guys were, Tom Anderson and all these guys were, making the modified Landau Strat. Landau had a modified Strat. Dan Huff had a modified Strat. Fender was like, finally, we got the Floyd Rose license. They had to cut a deal with Floyd Rose, and we'll make a hum single guitar. But it, came out in '92, just when it kind of all.
Another one. I did the sad trombone. Do you have a sad trombone sample over there?
I should have.
So.
But I still love these guitars. I put a certain amount of work into this one. It's got this is a Duncan 59. I tried, and I actually used this on the Cher gig.
Oh, talk about that in a minute,
when I got when I got the Cher gig, the first year on the Cher gig, I went in for Joel, and Joel was playing a Jackson Phil Collin model.
Joel Hoekstra. Okay. Yep.
Joel Hoekstra from Whitesnake, Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And so Joel's playing a Phil Collin model, and a Phil Collin model has like this. All my middle pickups are flush to the board, and I started getting really high output ones so that I can use it.
Oh wow! I didn't know that. You didn't tell me that. We're no longer friends.
It's still like a volume control though. It's like.
That kind of makes it a cool, useful sound, though, too, right? You can just flip to that, yeah.
Yeah, and so Joel had the Phil Collin model, and the thing about subbing. So if anyone's interested in the art of subbing, because I've subbed for Yngwie and Richie.
That's true. Wait, hold on. Say that again.
What? The art of subbing is in a lot of these cases, you're using the guitars, using the other guitar players' guitars, and that's just facts of life.
Yeah.
And for 9 out of 10 of the things that you have to play, it doesn't make a difference. But in the Cher gig, there is this feature at the end, and it was kind of like, Joel uses 11s on Fender scale guitars, and like I had played that Phil Collin model because I subbed for him at Rock of Ages, and I knew that I was not comfortable on it. It's a great guitar, but I'm not comfortable on it, particularly with 11s and what I was being asked to do in terms of technical stuff. So for the first year, sorry, I'm going to leave the shot again. I got this, which is like a stand-in for a Phil Collin.
Okay.
It's got the dinky shape, but it's just
We're showing our age by calling it the dinky Strat. You remember my old Charvel? I had a Charvel, and my first Jackson was called the Dinky Strat, and then he changed it to the Soloist, and it was number like 96. I had the earliest one and a Kaler on it. You remember that guitar? It sounded like ass.
These are great.
I know.
These are made in the Mexican facility, and they are awesome. I highly recommend it. Yeah. And it comes with uncovered pickups. I just prefer covered ones. So these are the same Duncans that would come in this guitar. It's just
Right. Hold on one sec. We dropped out for a second. Sorry. Hey guys, sorry we dropped out for a second. Okay. All right. Yeah, OBS crashed, man. I don't know what's in the middle of the conversation. Hold on. There we go. All right, we're back now. Okay. It crashed.
All right.
All right, we're good. We're up and live. There we go.
Sorry, I was saying that I got this guitar to sub in for Joel's Phil Collin model, and it did great. But then the second year, I did the research and said, if I'm going to turn back time with Cher, I got to do it justice. So, I watched the video, and the guy that played guitar in the video didn't play guitar on the record, but he was a touring guitar player for a while. He's passed on now, so it's I'm sorry, I can't recall his name right now, but he's definitely a great guitar player, and he's great in that video, and he's playing a Strat. So I said, I'm going to bring out the proper Strat for it, and the cowboy boots. I'm going to wear my pants in my boots.
All right.
Do pants in boots, and so I brought this out, and yeah. So I went to the 59, and this is a Kinman in the neck, and it's silent, but I love it. It kind of, the 59 has kind of a Van Halen-y vibe to me, and so I'm really digging this guitar. So thank you to Eric Struthers for sending me the guitar, and I keep, I know I don't know how many of your viewers are Floyd fans.
Right, Pink Floyd.
Floyd Rose fans.
Floyd
Rose.
All right.
It's not a very vintage accoutrement to have on your guitar, but I don't know if we've got questions. That's great, but I was just going to finish off with the subbing thing, just so everyone knows. On the Trans-Siberian Orchestra gig, we've been using the Axe effects for forever now, and it's just an Axe Effects 2 XL Plus, and that's what I'm playing through right now. I'm actually using my TSO presets, just slightly modified, because in the context of the TSO gig, they are the cabinet roll off is scrolled way down to like about 5K. Okay. And due to the PA system having so much high end, but So I added some high end back for what I'm doing here. But it's the same unit they used on the Cher job. And when I went in for Joel at Rock of Ages and at Cher, it's just plug and play. You go in and you play through the sounds that they have. But there again, because I used a different guitar at the end of the show, we modified the preset for the end of the show so that I could so that I was more comfortable in it. But
sorry, I just got distracted. I think a little glitchy today now after that crashed. I don't know. It's just checking something on my end. Just winging it. We're good. I got a bunch of questions for you. Yeah, no, my speed's good, man. It's just the network. What are we gonna do? Yeah. All right, so questions. All right, I'm gonna go back. There's tons of questions. All right, did either of you? This is from Rory Lisbon. Did either of you both memorize the Schenker solo for Rock Bottom?
No.
No, I never memorized. I've learned parts of it, Then I go to take a stab at memorizing it, and I go, well, I'm not going to spend all the time doing this. You know what I mean? Like this is too much. Hold on a second. There we go.
I remember when I played a gig at a bar with JD down in South. Oh.
JD is John DeServio, who plays with Black Label Society, who I went to college with, and he played in Liquid Hips for a while, and you played with him in Drill, right? Another band called Drill?
Yeah. And I can't remember what it was. It was like, what is hip or something? And he's like, yeah, and you got to play the whole guitar solo note for note. And it's like one of those really long guitar solos played by a fusion guy. I was like, really? Like, I was like, is that what it takes to, to play the bars in South Jersey?
Funny.
But I feel I would much rather learn the solo to Rock Bottom, and I should.
Right,
Jeff and I will do that. We promise.
All right, I'm going to go back here in some of the questions, and hopefully the stream is okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I have to messed up last week too, and this is, it's live. I don't know what's going on. All right. Questions. Oh, hey, Billy. Thanks. Good stuff, guys. Hope to see the TSO someday and perhaps a Liquid Hips reunion. I can't see Liquid Hips reunion happening. Well, the world is clamoring for it. All right. Any secrets for building up speed in those pentatonic licks? This is from S.E. Nesbitt. Well,
I think... sorry, I'm just in honor of Schenker. I decided to whip out one of the Flying V's here. I think that where I'm at now with the most valuable lessons I've gotten out of speed is trying to get the most hand synchronization stuff like that you're good at. So if you find something that you're good at, like a two-string, if you've got a little two-string solution that you're good at, then try and find a way to take that little bit of speed and apply it to other things elsewhere on the neck. So if that's your thing that you're good at, try and figure out a way to make that work kind of work the same combination, because it's all about, anytime you watch like the Troy Grady thing or any of that stuff, it's all about finding a formula of hand synchronization, pick, slanting, or whatever that works for you, and then figuring out how to implement it in as many places as possible. Like that's the secret of speed, is removing the things that trip you up from the way you synchronize your string crossings, and then getting as much mileage out of what works for you as possible.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, everybody hold on one second. I'm going to just leave the stream open. We'll be right back. I'm just going to close it, restart the stream because it's kind of glitchy. Just hold on one second. We're not leaving. Hold on. Okay? Okay. Yeah, it's really bad. Okay, I think we're maybe back. All right, I think we're back. It's really bad streaming today. I don't know what's going on. We might have to just call it.
Oh.
All right, back guys, we're back. Let's see how this works. See how this is going right now. All right, seems a little better. Okay, we're back to Angus talking. Yeah, it looks a little better. Okay, cool. Thanks for hanging, guys.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. We were talking about speed, and I was saying that it's all about figuring out your formula with string crossings. The other thing that I've found really effective is figuring out how much less you can pick without making it sound like it's completely legato.
Right.
So like, there's like a kind of a slash lick like this. And you can start to pick, you can get the hammer on from nowhere thing happening. So I don't have to do that string jump. Like that's super helpful for me. Another one, I didn't really demonstrate. Oh, well, one of the licks I played in the video that Jeff played at the top is one that I actually came up with to swap in for one of Joel's tapping licks on the Cher gig. So like he had a tapping lick. You're kind of in F sharp minor pentatonic. And he had a tapping lick that kind of started from the 9, like that kind of a thing. And so I just went for, that's where I came up with this thing. It just had that rolling quality that the tapping lick had.
Right.
But it didn't require me to tap.
Well, that's his thing, like the whole 8-finger tapping stuff. Yeah, which is.
God bless him.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Yeah, totally.
Like,
all right, I'm going to get some more questions. What gauge strings do you use on your Les Paul SG and Flying V's, and what brand? This is from Guitarist 22.
Everything is D'Addario.
Okay. Me too.
Don't play in the trash, folks.
Right.
And so I'm pretty much using 10s on everything now, but I did, if anybody follows me on the Instagrams,
Please do.
Please do, Angus Clark GTR. I am deep into an Iami. I'm deep into an Iami bag right now. And I took my 61 reissue and
Oh, that's a reissue. Oh.
It's the USA. It's the Gibson USA. It's not the custom shop. But the custom shop's over there, man.
Is that a Brazilian board on the cut? No. Sorry.
So I put 9s on it, and I took it down to A flat, and I was so happy with the results in terms of making it sound like I am. And the trilling is just off the chart. You just you can go all day.
Yeah.
I grew up thinking that heavier strings were the key to sounding really big on the harder rock stuff, but
it's not true. And then you think about all right, you're talking about his vibrato and bending. He's using 8s tuned down a half step. He had the fingertips or even a whole step on some stuff, right? So you had the fake fingertips. For him, he worked around it to make what worked for him. But as a result, it sounds a certain way. And if you want to recreate that sound, the only way to really do it is to do that.
Yeah, and I actually have an SG special that's being worked on by Joe Riggio Guitars right now, and the guys at Pariah Pickups just made me. They have a kind of a Iami inspired pickup called the Supernaut, and they made me. a mini humbucker version of it that'll fit in the P90 size slots.
Sweet.
On the SG Special. So it's going to be an SG Special with the wraparound bridge and these Pariah Supernaut minis in there. And I'll put 8s on it. Take it down to C sharp. No.
You sneeze on it and it plays a chord, yeah.
Yeah, I'll put, I think I'll do this. I'll put just the 9 to 42 on it. And, you know, I noticed like when I got the Brian May guitar to play with Mark Martel, like I think it came with 9 to 46 on it.
That was for the Queen gig. You
yeah,
the
ultimate
all the cool gigs.
It's for the Ultimate Queen celebration, which is that the other guys, Pete Thorne did it, Tristan Avakian does it, Aurelian Budinek does it. Everybody did that on a Fractal Axe 8, except for me. I did it on an Amplifier 12 because the tone's in your ears. And the Amplifier 12 did great on that gig. But I just ordered the Brian May guitar. I got like a used one from Sam Ash. And it came with 9s on it. And it did sound more, it sounded more like Queen with the lighter strings on it.
Right.
I think I lent it to Aurelian and he put heavier strings on it. When I got it back, I was like,
I didn't allow this. Has Angus ever heard of the band Coliseum? Has the band Coliseum ever crossed your path?
Like the Gary Moore Coliseum?
I guess so, yeah. I mean, that's the only one I could think of.
Or was that Coliseum 2?
It's Coliseum 2, I think. I don't know.
Shout out to Gary Moore. I love.
Yeah, man.
Love me some Gary Moore.
All right, where do we have? Okay. Any ear training, any guide to exercises for ear training?
Well, I did spend a while walking around with earbuds on, listening to this tape I made of myself playing this 1-4-5-1 thing. This was like a Bruce Arnold thing,
It's
right?
a Charlie Van
You had me
Ockes
doing
thing.
this.
Yeah.
G sharp.
Yeah. Hold on, does anything? Is it A? Fuck. Excuse me, G sharp. See? Octave below. Old tin ears. Yeah, that's a good one. My old guitar teacher, hey, Rusty Philippus, who signed and said hi, you gave me that same exercise. So that's really useful. And then learning stuff off of records, like just trying to think out what it is apart from the guitar is good,
Yeah, I think it comes with, if you relax and open your ears, very often you'll find your way there. Like, if you can catch, the first note, like I don't have perfect relative pitch, always improving relative pitch. And, if you some folks are into the thing, like, play any note and listen to what's going on there and they can figure out the key if they've got really strong. But then, I'm be more of like the, like, okay, that sounds like the 1, and then listen and relax. And, you probably just think, okay, I can hear it's, most of the pop progressions are simple. Yeah. So you can get there. I spent so much time learning that solo to Voodoo last week, though. And it's because Ayami is just sneaky. He's just sneaky. It's just like...
And quirky, yeah, right, yeah. To capture some of those nuances in what he's doing. This is from Quincy. A question for Angus. Amp distortion or pedal guy? Best way to memorize a list of songs?
Amp or pedal, whatever you got.
Yeah.
So
depends on the gig, depends on the situation. Yeah, sure.
I've done, I think I just, I love, I have these 2 Marshall heads, and then I have an EVH3, and I have a Black Star that I bought just to kind of double in for the Black Star. What I liked about it was that it's the same thing as this 2205 in design. It's like the super simple clean channel and then the dirty channel. But this one is really, the 2205 is awesome. And the Plexi's a Plexi, you gotta have one. So I love the sound of a guitar plugged straight into an amp is an amazing thing, but you don't get to do that all the time. So, you know, my pedal board would be the same design choices that you see Jeff making, where it's like you get something that is pretty good, like something that's like an amp in a box. For years, I was using the Box of Rock. Mm-hmm. Then I have the BOD. I have the Angry Charlie. You know, and then you get some version of an overdrive to push into that, some version of a boost to put after it, some delay and reverb after it if you're going into a completely clean amp.
Right.
I actually bought a Hot Rod 3 just so I had the same amp that I always wound up with on backline gigs, so that I can like trial stuff at home and know what I'm getting into. Mm-hmm. But I've also done gigs. I did one gig. I did a corporate. Oh yeah, if anyone out there works for a company that is in need of team building services, you want to unite your people around your purpose using music, my company's song division does amazing programs, virtual and in person. It'd be a great way to connect with me. But for those jobs, I'm backline everything 100%. Backline Les Paul, mm-hmm. Backline Marshall. And I had this one where I knew I was going to walk right off the stage into a train down at Union Station in Washington, D.C. And so I literally made sure that I didn't have to have a single pedal. So it was like backline tuner, mm-hmm. Marshall DSL, and, you know, 2 cables and a Les Paul.
Yeah.
And I just set it up so that on the crunch, and, you know, the foot pedal on that Marshall will only switch you from one of the 2 cleaner channels over to the lead channel.
Right.
So I just set up the crunch channel so it cleaned up when I rolled down the volume. And so I had clean with the roll down, crunch with the roll up, step on the pedal, there's your lead sound. And like the sound guys were like, man, that's the best sound we've heard all year.
Be a man. That's the way to do it. All right, hold on, I got some more questions. Thanks for those. All right, I'm running through here a lot because we were off for a little bit there. Okay, this is Michael Cope. You know Michael Cope.
Yes. How's my Les Paul doing?
How much more difficult is it to perform in a stadium? What's the largest group of people you play for? Was that Wacken?
Wacken was 85,000. I think the Tibetan Freedom Concert was like 150,000.
You mean the one that you met Brad Pitt at and you're introduced to your wife, that one? All right.
You got to take those new age gigs. They take you places.
I did have that new age gig and I got fired.
Just wasn't a good fit.
Well, it was a good fit. Yeah, I got the Kataro gig after Angus a little while later, and I got fired after like 3 days. Didn't go well. Never been fired from a gig. Well, no, I got fired from another gig. That's when I realized maybe I should just do my own music. All right.
I've been fired too, man.
Well, that was You didn't give me as much of a heads up on that one as you probably should have.
Oh.
It's like when you walk into a room, I meet him and he meets me, and I'm like, this isn't gonna be good. You know, like I could just tell it right away. And then, yeah. All right. So, okay, Michael Cope, sorry. Okay. How much more difficult is it to perform in a stadium, hit your spots, dramatize your solos, and engage the audience while hitting the right notes? That's a good question.
Yeah. Okay. So, the size of the audience, I think everybody's probably said it, that, you know, like, and the thing with the size of the audience, it's like you get more freaked out by like one person in the front row ignoring you or vibing you than by the number of people, than by a vast sea of people behind them, you know, just enjoying it. Yeah. It's really weird psychologically. So that's, very often you just don't look at the front row, which then they're like, why did I buy first row seats if the guy's not going to look at me at all? Like
Mick Jagger, when you see the Stones live, you're like, who's he looking at? Yeah. Like he's looking at the bleacher seats, it's weird.
Right. So you want to be inclusive of everybody. So for the large, to your point about stagecraft, for the larger jobs, you got to make some choices that are going to be easy to read from the back of the room, and that's fun. You know what I mean? Like it's just fun to figure that stuff out. Like, what can I do? I have certain things that I like doing with the guitar. I always thought, I wasn't the biggest Stones fan, but I just thought the way Keith Richards is always getting his hands completely off the guitar, because he's in open G. So like I'll have, any opportunity if I'm playing a G chord. The E. I mean, Kip Winger is the best, right? Like all of his bass lines, he's either. He's got it totally worked out. So that stuff's just hilariously fun. You got to have fun with that. And then in terms of when it gets challenging, and I had a friend of mine express this to me. He was just like, playing. He had done a lot of Broadway pit work, which is, I got fired from Broadway pit once, but
I heard about
that. That wasn't a good fit. It wasn't a good fit. He said, like, it's this thing of like you're playing footballs as in whole notes. You're just playing, you're just playing chords, rhythm, and then all of a sudden, like, spotlight, game on, 30-second notes, there's your moment. And then, so it becomes, particularly in the Broadway world, it becomes like long periods of boredom interspersed with moments of sheer panic. And you just have to be, and your preparedness for the moments of being in focus are really to do with how you prepare yourself during those periods of boredom. In other words, like, you have to know it's coming, and you're breathing and all that being unlocked. But all of that aside, the number one thing is muscle memory. Like, you have to have just run it so many times that it is under your hands. And if you're relaxed, your hands will just basically do it, or your ears will tell your hands, it'll be in your ears. You just relax, listen, breathe, your hands will do it. If you're still sweating where the notes are and what the right notes are, by the time they put you on the cherry picker and have you out at, 30 feet in the air, floating over the tops of people with like lasers going off around you, you're going to mess up. Yeah. So, and I've messed up. Totally have. But the chances of my messing up go down significantly the more times you just run it.
Yeah.
And of all the things that are, like Mark Martel, amazing artist, maybe, lesser known than Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Cher, et cetera. But the material was all the music of Queen, and everybody knows when you play a wrong note in a Queen solo. Yeah. Like, everybody knows.
Right.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. It's funny for me coming from, like more of an improvisational thing, like Liquid Hips, we talked about that earlier. It was just, your solo, go. And it was like a jazz gig in that sense, where I just solo as long as I wanted, and then I just cut loose, And then I've never really been, well, I can't say I've never been great in hired guy gigs, but I always envy your ability to, I don't suffer fools really well or take abuse well. Like, not that you've had that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, personality, I think you've got a strong personality, but you have a way to be in that situation, whereas I just, sometimes I'm like, I get aggravated, you know what I'm saying? And does that make sense, what I'm trying to add here? Like, you have a way, like, to, I mean, you kept that guitar gig forever, and then 3 days I'm like, I'm gonna hit the fire clock now? You know what I mean? Like, this is just not gonna happen. But one thing that's so different, which is totally cool, is that ability to memorize that much material. And it takes a certain kind of way of thinking. And for me, I found that difficult to memorize guitar solos or I guess if I got like the Roger Waters gig or something, I would do that like you did with Queen. Of course I would do everything I could get that, but
Roger might deserve your deference, right?
He might.
No, it's
it's my ego. It all comes down to my hubris is what it is. But it also comes down to the skill of, like, the music that I really got into playing is improvisatory. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes getting into that situation where it's like, oh, play that same solo every night. I'm like, oh, yeah. But I'm not knocking you. I don't mean it that way. But it's what I'm saying is, you can do these things. And I always envy that, like this quality that you have in your ability to do all these gigs and keep them for so long and get along with everybody and have it be something that, and how long have you been doing a TSO?
It's 20 years.
20 years. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. There's so many things that go into that
Sure.
that stuff. But I think that it's like doing a recording session with a record producer or a songwriter, like I talk about it in terms of the audition for the TSO was kind of this first example of, and it was just about the taking direction. So like whatever that quality is, where I sublimate and internalize my anger for being told what to do in order to remain hireable. Eat my way through it. So there would have been a lot of that on the Guitaro gig. And then coming into the TSO audition, there was just a moment of playing Old City Bar for Paul O'Neill. So I don't even remember if I was playing with a pick. And like I never had to play it in the show ever, but that was the audition.
Right.
And I had already done the audition, the part where I had already done I had already done that audition and the whole whatever. The Mozart thing, and I had done the Mad Russians thing. But then when it came time to meet the boss, it was, how do you do on this one, man?
Yeah. Well, I think that falls into like a lot of, I know some of the people who auditioned were more shreddery guys, and what you do really well, and I think one of the reasons, apart from all the other stuff, and Michael Cope alluded to it, is you're a good showman. And some people just don't get that. Like, oh man, I shredded the audition. I'm like, yeah, but were you staring at your feet the whole time? Like there's a big difference. So if you guys just go online and just check out Angus performing, with Cher or TSO, and there's a cover. Wasn't it like the book for, I think it's at that picture in the back of your wall right there, right over your shoulder,
I have a picture of myself on my wall. I know. Don't hate me.
I would have that picture on my wall. Me too. So.
Just to finish the point about that audition was that I was playing this part. And Paul grabbed the guitar out of my hands and showed me something. And he wasn't really playing the part the way it was on the record. And it wasn't something that I could actually learn right then and there. So I just had to go like breathe, listen, blank slate. Like what does he want me to know here? And I think I'm not sure what I did differently when I played it back to him.
Well, you might have.
But he
might have just seen that that's your approach to it. Was something that he's like, okay, I can work with this guy. He's actually, when I said I couldn't defer to people, it was, I don't mean like that's, working with Robin was, he's telling me what to do. And of course I got to do it and enjoyed it. In that kind of situation, like he probably like, oh, this guy is listening to me. He's not trying, he's just paying attention. And what a huge thing to have anybody you're working with is going to show you respect and pay, pay attention.
Yeah. And then the last thing about preparing on jobs is that like don't pick favorites on the set list. Just put it up and work the whole thing down. And when you identify a problem spot, come back to it. And then pretty sure, and then you're just chipping away at it.
Right.
So you just kind of like, in the broader scope, I've got this. And now I need to go back and I need to work this out and work that out. And, there's like some weird counting things in the Cher gig that are difficult to lock in with. There's one song that is kind of a bunch of It's called Burlesque, and it's a lot of like, it's going. It's like got a lot of weird.
Yeah, it's like a Kurt Weill sort of thing. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and so like you just have to go through the whole thing and then come back to it. There's a couple tunes where you're playing, you're literally playing like the Dean Parks or Tim Pierce parts from like a huge, a soundtrack song from the 70s. So it's like everything is like volume swell with a tremolo pedal.
Yeah.
And between the vocal lines and the second verse is different than the first verse. Those were the ones that were just like, oh.
Yeah. Here's a question.
It's much easier to remember the solo to Turn Back Time.
Sure.
Than to learn the overdubs.
All right, here's a question from Zita Martin. Zita's always here. Thank you, Zita. How important is it to keep the pick with an angle at the strings and angle to the guitar, and changing the direction of the pick like Troy Grady preaches? No pun intended.
It's obviously important, but I think that I don't know that I perfected anything. I think my typical thing is, kind of a forward down angle, and that's just the way I've been doing it for years. But once somebody like Troy, you watch that stuff, or right now I'm into the Chris Brooks, the Ingwe thing. If you haven't checked out the Chris Brooks stuff, it's pretty awesome. It just gives you some different strategies. That's how I like to see it. So awareness will help you in that way, but I couldn't tell you which way is better for you, really.
Yeah, sure. But the pick angle I think was helpful to me. I think about that, and how I can glide across the strings. So yeah, I've got sort of that angle. Let me get a little pencil here, like that. I find that really helps. If you're playing perpendicular to strings, you kind of doesn't sound so good, and it's easy to get caught up inside the strings and everything. So it takes a moment. Of course, Angus has a new TrueFire course out and a link. Phil's been hitting it. Thank you, Phil. And also it's in the description down below. You can get that course through Angus. It would be super awesome. And thanks for everybody for being here. I know this is the feed was a little rough at first, but it's doing pretty good now. So a few other things I just wanted to bring up. Oh, you had tonight, right? You have a live feed. TrueFire is broadcasting one of your courses, correct?
Yeah, TrueFire doing a live stream of my Radio Rock Essentials, and as I mentioned before, I don't know what it's like. It's one of the first titles that I came up with after joining TrueFire, which was the Radio Rock thing. So you can look for things that are, I'm a huge fan of Neil Giraldo, Richie Sambora, Tim Pierce. Tim Pierce played the solo on the first Bon Jovi single.
Mm-hmm. I know that.
And he was there. He was kind of in the mix there because he was working on some stuff with Neil Giraldo. So it's really, and all that Rick Springfield stuff and like everything. It's the super interesting what rock guitar was right at that point, which is like the late 79, 80, which is a really pivotal thing in terms of, everybody thinks back to the 80s and they think of the kind of 83 to 88 vibe. But if you think about just what it was, Tom Petty Refugee came out like in the 80s.
Yeah.
And it's like solid gold stuff. And so that's kind of the direction I was leaning on that. And Neil Schon.
Right.
Just can't say enough about, just what he brings to the table if you're working over just stuff that's major, and then he's just, the way that bend, the way that the string slightly rattles on the fret and that bend, making it kind of an articulation. I don't know. It's just whatever.
Well, it's a great course. All right. Well, we've been on for like an hour and a half, so I just want to, I guess we'll kind of wrap it down now. But I want to say thanks so much to my dear friend, of course, Angus Clark, for joining us today. And any questions we didn't get through, just trying to make it through everything because the feed got all weird. But thank you for hanging with it. Let's see if I can make it a different thing to start feeding with. The past 2 weeks have been a little weird. I don't understand what's going on. So we'll see. But thanks to Phil Mingan for being here, doing everything as always. Rory Lisbon, Jason Carter, Matt Gibson, Gary Driver, Michael Cope, of course, S.E. Nesbitt, Tom Annette, thank you. PCS 69 NYC, Gary Driver, I think I said that. Everything Rosita, David Cromwell, everybody, all that same people, Sam Stamos, everybody who's here every week. If you liked what you saw, please hit the like button. I really appreciate everybody being here. We're almost at 100 likes, and thanks for the top chat, all you people that hit that. And check out Angus at his website. Where do you want people to check out, Angus? Where's the best area right now?
Yeah, the website's angusclark.com, but really, I think I do most of my. I'm going to give it a like. I gave it a like. Right. See, one extra. Most of my postings Instagram, Angus Clark GTR. I have a YouTube channel, Angus Clark GTR, and a Facebook page, and I'm always hoping to get more active on the YouTube channel because I have a certain amount of gear. It's mostly about gear on the YouTube, as far as I can tell.
I don't know what you mean.
But thank you. Jeff, thank you for having me, and thanks to everyone for checking it out. I hope the stories weren't too boring.
We'll get to the Zach Wild story the next time. We'll hold that for the next one.
Suffice it to say, we took Zach to lunch, and then we took Zach to dinner, and we played a couple concerts. And what was he? Did he wind up carrying Terry Sirik around on his shoulders at some point?
No, well, he held you up while we were playing War Pigs. He held you up with by one leg. That was fun. That was awesome.
Pretty much the most legendary National Guitar Summer Workshop.
Legendary National Guitar Workshop. He was ripping too, man. He was so good. But
I think the opening salvo would just be that it's in a small town in Connecticut. All the kids that lived anywhere in the area told their friends. So suddenly, out of a student population of 200 kids, there was like a 500-person auditorium full of people, including their parents. And Zach was completely unmoderated in his use of colorful language.
Yes. So it was, and the owners were like, we were just loving every second of it, because he was just being the full-on rock star. It was so awesome. It was great. All right, everyone. I will see you next week. Thanks for being here. I hope you in the States enjoy your long weekend. And yeah, man. Once again, thanks, Angus. I'll talk to you later.
Talk to you.
All right,
thanks,
see you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
All right.